Okay, this tutorial is going to cover a basic HTML, or rather HTTP proxy. Now I've written a disclaimer here. It says, remember, a proxy should not be used for illegal activity. This tutorial will cover the simplicity of creating a proxy using PHP, as it does not encourage such illegal activity. So bear that in mind when you're using this. I am using Google as my example. I'm going to create a proxy for Google, and I don't encourage you to use this in any illegal way at all. Okay, now to start with, we're going to use the URL of Google to open as a file. Now in PHP, if I was to open a file in such way, we would be getting the contents of that file, more or less. Now, by saying http / google.co.uk, we are getting the contents of the HTML. And most simply, therefore, you could say echo page. Now you'd think, however, this stores it as an array. It will store parts of the HTML file as an array. So if we go onto here and refresh, you can see that we've got an array. So that gives us the clue that we've just created an array. Now, a loop to echo elements of an array, or to manipulate elements of an array, is for each, the for each loop. And that works a bit like this. We say the array we're taking, and then as each part of the array. So I'm just going to call this part. Okay? And then what we can do there is, because this is a loop, we could say echo part. Now that has basically created what you'd think as a proxy. If I refresh, you can see we've got Google up. However, our URL has remained the same. Now we've got a few problems, and I'm going to address these in this tutorial. First of all, the picture's not showing up. Second of all, when I try and search for something, let's say 111 or 000, I'm going to click search, and it's not found, because we're looking for the search folder on my web server, which is not what I want. So what I'm going to do is I am going to, oh, there we go. Okay, just close this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to need to use a replace function to manipulate each image or link to make sure we can show it properly. Now to do this, you'll see why in a minute. I'm going to have to create a separate variable for my URL here. So I'm going to put this into a variable URL, and my file obviously is going to be my URL. So as long as we're echoing out part, you can see that this still works. Okay, so it still works. Now bear in mind, this is my proxy, not the actual Google page that I've also got up. You can see the difference here. Okay, now I am going to use the ereg replace function, and I'm going to say part equals ereg replace. And if you don't know about this function, read up about it or check out my, I think it was my find and replace tutorial. And we're basically going to say what we need to replace here. So so replace this with this, and this is going to be in our part. We want to replace everything in each part of our array holding Google's HTML. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to find what we need to replace. Now our image, if we have a look in our main page, I'm going to highlight this and I'm going to say view selection source. Now our image source is this. Now what we need it to be is we need the HTML, we need the http:// blah 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 google.com around here. So we're going to have to take this section of it, or rather this section, I'm going to say this section, and we're going to have to replace this with the correct extension for this folder in this file. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to say replace, and make sure you're using inverted commas and not these. You'll see why in a minute. We're going to say image source equals, and I'm going to need one of them in there. Okay, so I'm going to replace that with more inverted commas, image source equals that, and then we're going to concatenate on the end of that the URL. Now the reason we can't just concatenate this page, say if this was still in here, is because this is an array and we can't concatenate the whole array on, we just want this value here. So we're going to concatenate that onto it. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is echo back out my part, and we'll test this and run it. And I've got a feeling it might not work. Okay, right, the reason it hasn't worked is, at the moment we've got an immediate speech mark and an ending speech mark. Now this will be taken literally when taken into account with this as well. So what it's really adding is it's adding 2 speech marks. So what I can do is put this in inverted commas, and what that should hopefully do when we refresh, in fact no, let's just get rid of this and keep these in. That would probably be a better way to do it. And we can refresh, and there's our image. So I've run my PHP proxy, and I have my image set up here. Now the next thing I'm going to do is manipulate my search bar. So I'm going to search for, say, test. At the moment we're saying object not found. Now again, what we need to do is we need to go into the real Google page, select all we can from around the search area and view selection source, and if we go along until we find the form, here we have form action equals /search. Now again, we're going to need to change this form action here, and we're going to have to replace that with our URL. So what I'm going to do is, because on many pages we might not have say, I'll show you an example down here, we could have form method equals and our method, and then action equals. So if we're action equals that, so if we were directly replacing form action, that won't be found in one. So I'm just going to replace the action, and that is going to be done by saying part equals ereg replace, and then action equals, and then we want to replace that with action equals, and we want again to concatenate our URL. Remember, this is including this as well, and that's going to happen inside our part. Okay, so we can refresh our page, have a search for test, and okay, right, let's just say that. Let's give this another try. Okay, so what you really need to do is you need to be fiddling around with the structure of this, making sure that you're adapting to the page you're creating the proxy for. So I've used Google as an example, and that's basically how I've done it. So I've replaced parts of it with concatenating the URL on to the start of each link. So you can do this with standard href links, you can do it with images, you can do it with form actions, you can do it with just about anything. So that's how easy it is really to create a proxy in PHP. Okay, thanks for watching.